Horror doesn't stay in one lane. It bleeds into everything, twisting other genres into something darker and stranger. Tonight we're looking at 10 overlooked films where horror collides with sci-fi and action, creating hybrids that are hard to categorize but impossible to forget. Some of these lean heavy on creature effects and cosmic dread. Others bring guns, explosions, and body counts that go beyond the supernatural. A few were made to capitalize on Alien's success, while others carved their own bizarre path through the 80s rental market. What they all share is that unpredictable energy, the kind that comes from filmmakers mixing genres without asking permission, throwing practical effects and wild ideas at the screen to see what lands. These aren't pure horror films, and that's exactly the point. They're mutations, part monster movie, part action thriller, part sci-fi nightmare, and they're all worth rediscovering. Galaxy of Terror, 1981. Before James Cameron directed Aliens, he worked as second-unit director and production designer on Bruce D. Clark's Galaxy of Terror, helping construct the elaborate pyramid sets that give this Roger Corman production surprising visual scope. The premise, a rescue mission to a remote planet, becomes a nightmare when the crew discovers a mysterious structure that feeds on fear, manifesting each person's deepest terrors as physical threats. The ensemble cast reads like a who's who of character actors: Ray Walston, Aaron Moran, Robert Englund before Freddy Krueger, Sid Haig delivering menacing presence, Edward Albert as the reluctant hero, and Grace Zabriskie as the ship's commander. Each actor gets their moment of terror, facing fears that range from worms to cosmic insignificance. The individual death sequences are inventively disturbing, with practical effects that still provoke reactions. The film's most notorious scene, involving a giant maggot-like creature, remains one of exploitation cinema's most extreme moments, pushing boundaries that most productions wouldn't approach. Despite obvious budget limitations, the pyramid interiors create genuine alien atmosphere through creative lighting and set design. Galaxy of Terror operates as pure pulp sci-fi horror, unconcerned with logic or restraint. Corman exploitation that aims for the gut rather than the brain. Without Warning, 1980. 7 years before Predator, Graydon Clark made a film about an alien trophy hunter stalking human prey in isolated forest terrain using advanced weapons and camouflage. Teenagers heading to a remote lake become targets for an extraterrestrial using living disc-like weapons that attach and drain victims, while a paranoid veteran desperately tries to warn anyone who will listen. Jack Palance delivers an unhinged performance as the veteran who's encountered the alien before, playing paranoia with zero restraint. Martin Landau appears as the local store owner who understands the threat but can't stop it. The young cast, including David Caruso in an early role, handles escalating terror with appropriate urgency. Kevin Peter Hall, who would later become the Predator, plays the alien in a practical suit that's more bizarre than threatening, a lumpy reptilian thing that's effective despite costume limitations. The disc weapons are memorably grotesque, pulsating, organic things that latch onto victims. Stan Winston contributed creature effects work that elevates the technical aspects. It's straightforward B-movie horror that knows its strengths, offering unpretentious alien hunter mayhem before Hollywood did it with 10 times the budget. Transmutations, 1985. Clive Barker's script meets action thriller framework in George Pavlov's grimy urban nightmare. A mercenary is hired to rescue a woman from underground criminals, but the job becomes far stranger when he discovers London's sewers hide a community of mutated humans, people transformed by experimental narcotics into something caught between addiction and evolution. Denholm Elliott brings intensity to the Doctor, whose research created the mutants, playing guilt and desperation with trademark skill. Larry Lamb's mercenary provides action hero physicality, while navigating increasingly bizarre circumstances, and Nicola Cowper's kidnapped woman displays more agency than typical damsel roles. Practical locations and moody lighting transform sewers and industrial spaces into a gothic underworld. The mutant designs emphasize tragedy over pure monstrosity. These are victims of exploitation, not mindless creatures. Action sequences blend shootouts with horror elements as the descent continues deeper into this hidden world. Released in the US as Underworld, the film struggles with budget limitations that prevent Barker's vision from fully materializing. Still, the concepts and atmosphere remain compelling, a bridge between straightforward action cinema and the mythological horror Barker would explore more successfully later, offering a glimpse of his unique perspective, filtered through genre constraints. Humanoids from the Deep, 1980. Few films caused as much controversy behind the scenes as Barbara Peters' Humanoids from the Deep. Producer Roger Corman wanted more exploitation, leading to additional scenes directed by Jimmy T. Murakami that Peters reportedly objected to. The result is a deeply problematic creature feature where genetically modified salmon produce amphibious offspring that emerge from the ocean with violent reproductive intent. A coastal fishing town becomes ground zero as the attacks escalate toward the annual festival. Doug McClure plays a fisherman caught between corporate interests and creature attacks, while Ann Turkel's scientist investigates the mutations. Vic Morrow adds intensity as a racist antagonist whose prejudices become insignificant when faced with the greater threat. The human conflicts, corporate greed, racism, economic desperation, provide surprising depth before the monsters arrive. Rob Botton's creature effects are impressively realized, humanoid fishmen that are both absurd and genuinely menacing. The suits allow for physical performances that sell the threat, particularly during the beach attack climax where dozens of creatures storm the festival. The film mixes eco-horror and monster mayhem with deeply uncomfortable themes, sparking controversy even in the permissive early 80s. Humanoids from the Deep remains a contentious entry in exploitation history, a film where ecological warnings collide with boundary-pushing content that many find objectionable. The Being, 1981. Martin Landau and Jose Ferrer in an Idaho creature feature. That's the unlikely hook for Jackie Kong's eco-horror throwback. A small town faces gruesome deaths that point toward toxic waste dumping and something mutated living in the desert, feeding on anyone unfortunate enough to cross its path. Kong updates 50s monster movie templates for 80s gore sensibilities, mixing small-town Americana with environmental horror. The creature effects are the standout achievement, a hideously deformed monster revealed gradually through the runtime. When fully shown, it's an impressive practical creation that delivers genuine grotesqueness. Attack sequences blend creativity and brutality with dark humor that keeps the tone from becoming oppressively grim. The isolated desert community atmosphere feels authentic, capturing that small-town vibe where everyone knows everyone and secrets are hard to keep. Kong stages the monster mayhem with enough craft and heart to rise above typical regional horror fare, delivering straightforward creature feature satisfaction. Inseminoid, 1981, Chislehurst Caves in Kent, England, transformed into an alien planet for Norman J. Warren's brutal sci-fi horror film. The limestone tunnels provide genuinely claustrophobic locations as an archaeological expedition uncovers ancient technology and something still alive. When a team member is attacked and impregnated by an extraterrestrial presence, she becomes a violent threat to the rest of the crew. Judy Geeson delivers a committed performance transitioning from victim to predator, driven by alien instincts to protect her rapidly gestating offspring. Stephanie Beacham and Victoria Tennant navigate increasingly dire circumstances as the small crew dynamic collapses. Survival depends on trust, and that evaporates once the attacks begin. Warren's approach to the premise is unflinching, treating the forced impregnation and its aftermath with exploitation directness. The practical effects for the alien sequences and birth scene are crude but effective, emphasizing visceral horror. Creative lighting and minimal set dressing transform the underground caves into convincingly alien environments on a fraction of Alien's budget. This is pure survival horror, stripped of cosmic mystery or deeper meaning, focusing entirely on immediate physical threat. Inseminoid operates as grim, cheap British exploitation that delivers exactly what its provocative title promises without pretense. Primal Rage, 1988. A university journalist investigating animal testing gets exposed to an experimental virus that transforms infected subjects into mindless, homicidal maniacs. As it spreads through campus, victims become superhuman killers driven purely by rage and hunger. This is late 80s infection horror that bridges Rabid and the Rage virus films that would follow decades later. Patrick Lowe plays the investigative journalist navigating his own infection while trying to stop the spread, with Cheryl Arut as a student caught in the outbreak and Bo Svensson attempting damage control as everything spirals beyond containment. The infected aren't zombies, they're humans stripped of higher function, driven by pure aggression. Transformation is rapid and brutal, with practical effects showcasing physical changes and violent behavior. The campus setting provides varied locations from laboratories to dormitories to surrounding wilderness as safe spaces keep shrinking. Rambaldi maintains tight pacing, understanding that infection horror works best when threat constantly escalates. Action sequences blend horror violence with survival desperation, creating confrontations about fighting off attackers and escaping contamination simultaneously. Primal Rage delivers lean, effective infection horror that presages the rage-infected subgenre, while carving its own path through late 80s direct-to-video territory. Creature, 1985. Klaus Kinski fighting a biomechanical alien on one of Saturn's moons. That's essentially the pitch for William Malone's shameless alien imitator. A salvage crew responds to a distress signal from a research station on Titan and finds an ancient life form that's been dormant for millennia and very hungry after its long sleep. Yes, it borrows the derelict ship setup, corporate betrayal subplot, and even the chest-bursting reveal. But Malone brings enough practical effects craftsmanship to make it more than a simple cash grab. The creature designed by Robert and Dennis Skotak is genuinely impressive. A biomechanical horror that moves with unsettling fluidity through surprisingly effective industrial corridors. Kinski's presence elevates everything considerably, bringing his signature intensity even in limited screen time. The rest of the cast, Stan Ivar, Wendy Shaw, Lyman Ward, and Diane Salinger, play it straight, treating the B-movie premise with appropriate gravity. Malone shoots the Titan research station with real visual flair, understanding that atmosphere can compensate for limited resources. When the violence arrives, it's practical and brutal, with solid gore effects that satisfy. Creature knows exactly what it is and executes with enough skill to stand as entertaining space horror in its own right. Forbidden World, 1982. Roger Corman's New World Pictures, operating at peak efficiency, recycling sets and footage from Battle Beyond the Stars while delivering fresh creature effects and escalating body horror. Alan Holtzman's Forbidden World wastes no time. A troubleshooter gets dispatched to a remote research facility where genetic experiments have produced something that's evolving faster than anyone anticipated. The metamorphic organism designed to solve food scarcity has become a rapidly mutating predator that's learning, adapting, and consuming everything in its path. Jesse Vint plays the space troubleshooter with appropriate worn-down charisma, a man who's seen enough corporate disasters to know exactly how bad things will get. John Buechler's creature effects are the standout, a constantly morphing monstrosity that changes appearance and abilities as it consumes genetic material. The transformation sequences showcase practical effects work that punches well above the modest budget, genuinely disturbing in their organic fluidity. Corman's influence is evident in every frame. Maximum exploitation value extracted from minimal resources, with gratuitous elements inserted to guarantee rental appeal. The film moves at a relentless pace through grimy industrial corridors, delivering exactly what its title promises. A nasty, efficient creature feature that knows its audience and serves them well. Breeders, 1986. Young women across Manhattan are being attacked and left in catatonic states, their bodies unmarked but their minds shattered. A detective and a doctor investigate the pattern, uncovering evidence that points toward something not human. An alien presence using the city as a breeding ground, selecting hosts for a grotesque reproductive cycle that defies all biological logic. Tim Kincaid's Breeders is New York City exploitation horror that aims for alien-style body violation and lands somewhere far grimmer. The film operates in that uniquely 80s space where sci-fi concepts meet unflinching exploitation, delivering creature effects and disturbing imagery with zero subtlety. It's rough, cheap, and relentlessly nasty in ways that feel genuinely transgressive. The creature itself is a practical effects creation by Ed French, a slimy, insectoid nightmare that's more disgusting than frightening. Underground lair sequences, set in what appears to be New York's forgotten tunnel systems, create genuine claustrophobia, with industrial decay meeting organic horror in the breeding chamber sequences that remain memorably revolting. Breeders traffics in exploitation that many will find objectionable, but it commits fully to its repulsive premise without apology. It's grimy 42nd Street horror that existed purely for the grindhouse and late-night cable crowd who wanted their creature features as uncomfortable as possible. The 80s proved that horror didn't need to choose a lane. It could be sci-fi, action, creature feature, or all three simultaneously, as long as the practical effects delivered and the monsters looked nasty under flickering lights. These films came from that golden era when imagination could compensate for limited budgets, and filmmakers weren't afraid to throw everything at the screen to see what landed. Some of these titles were cynical cash grabs chasing alien success. Others were genuine attempts to explore new territory where genres collided. A few managed both at once: exploitation with ambition, B-movies with craft, and monsters that still hold up because they were built by hand rather than rendered by computer. What connects them isn't quality or consistency, but that unpredictable energy that comes from mixing formulas without asking permission. They're mutations, sometimes successful, sometimes awkward, but always more interesting than playing it safe. If you're into the stranger corners of 80s horror where creatures, gunfights, and spaceships all shared the same VHS shelf, hit that subscribe button and let us know what other genre mashups or forgotten years deserve this kind of attention. Thanks for watching, and remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.